Welcome to Inspirational Transformational TV show. Amy Whitney here today with my very special guest, David Hickey. Today's story is a story of passion. David was born and lived for music. But the interesting thing about his passion is that he took absolutely no musical training. He just spent the first part of his life listening. He, with his gypsy soul, traveled around the world listening until that moment that he found the sound he was listening for in his crystal bowls. And as they say, the rest is history. So to hear the magical mystery tour of David Hickey, stay tuned. His story is incredibly beautiful. Enjoy the show. David Hickey, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Amy.
Now, I wanted to start with something that I read on your website. It's listed under what you call one of your goals, and that's to use your music to awaken consciousness, restore balance of the self and the planet. Now, when I read that, I laughed, because I hear so many people talk about goals like paying off mortgages and, buying a sports car by 40. Now, my big question is, I understand a bit about your music, but what has led you to have such a goal? Tell me your life, what in your life, what's been your inspiration to bring you to that place? Because that is a huge, beautiful, massive, divine goal.
How long is this interview? This is definitely an interesting question, because it does cover a wide range of, my personal life, of what I was doing before, and as this expands, even more so, where am I going with this, and then that keeps changing as well. So, that's my mission statement for my website and what Crystal Journey is. And really, I think that's a goal that I have for myself. Mm-hmm. And that when I was asked to write that by the man who does my website, I had to think about it and what is what I'm doing, what does it mean to me? And the more that I played, the more that became a reality, that it was awakening my consciousness. And the more people showed up, it felt like that's why they were showing up. They were, it's really hard to explain the music. It's an experience, and it's hard to explain an experience. So I felt like there was a consciousness expanding and a consciousness awareness that was taking place during my concerts, which not a lot of music offers that today because of the lyrics or the way the music is produced. This is all pure music, and I don't use any mics or amps or amplification or synthesizers, so it really allows the listener to go within and look within themselves, just like I have to and what I do when I'm performing. So it really is about expanding that consciousness, and it's not easy.
Definitely. Now, I read that you will do approximately 150 shows a year, and they're all improvised. So can you just give me an idea, when you say they're improvised, are you channeling, or how does it work?
Well, it really, that word does come up, and I will use it in certain circles. And I mean, it's like the references to however you want to describe God, whether it's a god, goddess, he, she, it, in whatever form. It's the same for what I do. So it's really, again, it comes back to it being an experience. For some people, it's music. For some people, it's a very spiritual experience. Other people, it's a meditative experience. But the improvisation comes from my love of music, I really believe, first and foremost. So I've spent my whole life looking and searching for a particular sound that over the course of 40 plus years, whatever I was listening to at the time, whether it was classical music definitely gets me there the closest. But whatever I was listening to growing up, and then as a teenager, and then in my 20s and 30s, it changed, and music's been my life. So listening to certain bands over a course of time, they could only get me so far. And then I would be left kind of standing there listening, going, okay, what's next? And I wasn't getting that. And really, Crystal Journey is about that search for that sound that could just keep taking me further and further and further. And that's what that improvisation allows for. There's no structure, and there's no limit to what I can do. And over the course of 8 years, 800 plus shows, every show is completely different. So it's kind of trippy when you think about it, that it could be, and most nights it's very different even from the night before. So it just, I don't limit myself to something that I may have heard the night before and want to repeat it. I just keep going and saying, well, where can I go with it? And just keep adding to it and expanding on it. And that's really what you see behind me here, is an evolution of just going from the bowls to the gongs to adding a santur to a vibraphone, instruments that I never played before. And so channeling, for sure, absolutely, wherever that comes from. I definitely have what I would call my musical muses, people that inspire me musically, that I love with all my heart, that I know they loved music so much and gave it their all, and woke up thinking about it, went to bed thinking about it, probably dreamt about it, and that's what I do with my music.
So you said music is your life. So is that the story of your life? Like, you were born and drumming by the time you were 3 months. Is it like sort of a prodigy type thing?
Well, as my mother would say, I grew up making noise, banging on pots and pans on New Year's Eve, and tapping my fingers or tapping my feet. I never played an instrument per se, and never really wanted to take a musical lesson. My mom tried to get me to take drum lessons or piano lessons. I just wanted to listen. I was really, growing up in my later years, I just wanted to go to concerts. I wanted to sit there and I wanted to watch the band play. That's really what I got off on. And it wasn't until, I was a big follower of the Grateful Dead and saw them a number of times, over 150 times, and really just loved going there. I found that their music got me the closest to what I explained earlier. And night after night, I wanted to go back and see what they were going to do. And that was kind of what their model was. When fans of the Grateful Dead were asked, why do you go to so many concerts? And they said, because we want to hear what they're going to do next. Because you weren't going to the same concert. I've seen great artists like Elton John and the Rolling Stones and the band and U2 and all of those incredible musicians, but for the most part, they played the same show night after night after night. They have a set list and they stick to it. They've rehearsed that. Grateful Dead never did that, and that's really what Crystal Journey does. It's what they called, which I definitely say what I do, every concert is a rehearsal. So with that, I wanted to just keep continuing to allow myself to grow. And I was never, without taking any music lessons, I wasn't structured in any way, or if you want to call it inside the box, where I was limited to what I learned and what I thought I should know. I've let all that go and I just play.
So what you're telling me is that you do all of this with no formal music training?
None.
Oh my goodness.
No, one music lessons. I refused to take music lessons. I didn't want to. I just, I thought about it, and it didn't seem like the thing to do. As I mentioned, I just wanted to listen, and I kind of backtrack a little bit. Friends of mine were in a band, and I got to be kind of part of that in a more intimate way. So going to their rehearsals and seeing what good musicians, being up close to them, and they were great, and great guitar players, great drummer, great bass player. And it wasn't until then, I would have been in my early 30s, where I was like, maybe I should have taken some music lessons. I could be sitting in with them right now, because I didn't play guitar. I had sat in with them on congas and some percussion, which fit in perfectly, because I definitely have rhythm. And so it wasn't until then that I kind of thought to myself, maybe I should have taken a music lesson. But then, of course, I thought to myself, well, it's not too late. So I went back into that thought form, should I take some music lessons? And something stopped me yet again from, I thought maybe I would take some piano lessons because I love the piano, and made some phone calls to find somebody to teach me, and I never went any further because I didn't want to do it. And then next thing I knew, I'm doing this. So the universe set me up to just say, stay away from the lessons, we'll guide you, and just listen, which is what I set myself up for earlier in the first place, to go to the concerts, to listen. And that's what I do with my music. I listen and I follow the instrumentation, I follow the vibration, I follow the rhythms. And in 2006, I was asked to perform with the Winnipeg Chamber Orchestra. So I kind of figured at that point, I have to let go of not that stigma of, I didn't want to call myself a musician because I didn't have any formal training, and I felt like I was cheating somehow, because there I am up on stage with these prodigies who were born with their instruments, in their hand probably, and what am I doing up here? And it wasn't until after the show all of them came up to me and just said how amazing they thought what I did and what I added to what they did. So it was in 2006 where I really let go and really went into what I was doing, and not worried about not having any formal training.
So 2006. Now, when did your journey start with these instruments?
With these instruments in particular, it started about 2001.
2001.
I was attending a health show in Toronto. I was selling Tibetan bowls and tingshas and meditation items, and was asked by another participant of the show if I'd ever heard of Crystal Bowl, and I said no, and she escorted me to her booth, and I walked in, and she asked me to close my eyes, and I did, and she guided me in, stood me in front of this incredible bowl. She started playing it, and as they say, the rest is history. I left her booth and went back to my what I was doing for the rest of the weekend, and then first thing Monday morning, I tried to find where I could buy a crystal bowl, and that was it. So that was 2001, and I bought a couple of bowls, started playing with them. Was really kind of the first person in Southern Ontario to have them, and at the time it was for my business, so it was just to have them to sell. And the more I was around them, the more people were intrigued by them, and I would demonstrate them, and you would instantly draw a crowd of people no matter where I was, either in my store or at the health shows. And so I was like, okay, something's going on here. And then everything just kind of fell into place. I started asking people about, would you like to hear, maybe a concert, or how am I going to do this? So yes. It all evolved from just hearing one bowl, and that was it. One sound,
really?
One note.
Really? So this is would you call this your life path, your calling?
At this point, absolutely. I've certainly been on a search for, my purpose. I'd say about the last 10 to 15 years of my life. Before that, it was just, what music can I listen to? What concerts can I go to? And then, as I got a little bit older, I had to find a way to make a living while doing that. And while I was following the Grateful Dead around, I was a bit of a gypsy, and went down to Mexico and bought clothing and sold things at the festivals. And so that's how I made my living. And then when this started, I had to figure out, how can I make a living doing this? Am I going to, is it going to be just selling the bowls, or am I going to do a performance? And I think back to my first performance, and oh my God, I can't believe how, whatever you want, it was, by my standards today, it was terrible. But people loved it.
Yes.
And there was like 40, 50 people there, and they wanted more. And I was sweating and embarrassed. I couldn't believe that, I was doing this. But all the feedback was, because there was nothing else like it. And people wanted to hear this instrument, and nobody had them. So I could do no wrong. And I really still can't. I can't, with the way that I play and the how beautiful the instruments are, there's no messing up. So it's kind of cool. But I can't really go wrong with what I do. So, but life calling for sure, absolutely. Now I can definitely say that. 10 years ago I put it out there. Okay, why am I here? And I left myself open for whatever needed to come in.
And here it is.
And here it is.
Amazing. And now, you commented even from the first show, people said that the music affected them in a certain way. Is it fair to say that healing takes place? I'm not allowed to say that, am I?
Oh yeah, you can, for sure. Well, in the beginning, I called this, it was called Crystal Journey, a sound healing journey. It's now changed to Crystal Journey, Peace Through Music.